So we have an exciting little extra video being filmed today. We're recording mostly Stacey's reaction to chapters 77, 78, and 79 of Queen of Shadows. They're the last 3 chapters for our next episode, but I want to get her visual reaction to what happened. If you know, you know.
I'm afraid. I'm constantly nervous and afraid of this whole series.
So 76 ended with Dorian basically taking over the demon. His collar gets snapped. And then we're into chapter 77.
Shall I hit play?
You shall.
The wordstone collar broke in two, severing along a hairline fracture where the ring's power had sliced through. Dorian was panting, and blood was running from his nose, but Aelin, he gasped out. And the voice was his. It was him. She ran, sheathing the sword of Orinth, reaching his side as the wall of ice exploded beneath a hammer of darkness. The king's power surged for them, and Aelin flung out a single hand. A shield of fire blasted into existence, and the darkness was shoved back. "Neither of you are leaving here alive," the king said, his rough voice slithering through the fire. Dorian sagged against her, and Aelin slipped a hand around his waist to hold him up. Pain flickered in her gut, and a throbbing began in her blood. She couldn't hold out, not so unprepared, even as the sun held at its peak, as if Mala herself willed it to linger just a little longer to amplify the gifts she'd already showered on a princess of Terrasen. "Dorian," Aelin said, pain lancing down her spine as burnout neared. He turned his head, an eye still on the wall of flickering flames. Such pain, and grief, and rage in those eyes, yet somehow, beneath it all, a spark of spirit, of hope. Aelin extended her hand, a question and an offer, and a promise. "To a better future," she said. "You came back," he said, as if that were an answer. They joined hands. So the world ended, and the next one began. They were infinite. They were the beginning and the ending. They were eternity. The king standing before them gaped as the shield of flame died out to reveal Aelin and Dorian, hand in hand, glowing like newborn gods as their magic entwined. "You're mine," the man raged. He became darkness, folded himself into the power he carried, as if he were nothing but malice on a dark wind. He struck them, swallowed them. But they held tighter to each other, past and present and future, flickering between an ancient hall and a mountain castle perched above Orinth, a bridge suspended between glass towers, and another place, perfect and strange, where they had been crafted from stardust and light. A wall of night knocked them back, but they could not be contained. The darkness paused for breath. They erupted. Rowan blinked against the sunlight as it poured from beyond Adian. Soldiers had infiltrated the sewers again, even after Lysandra had saved their sorry asses. Lorcan had rushed back, bloodied, and told them the way out was barred, and whatever way Lysandra had gotten in was now overrun. With battlefield efficiency, Rowan had healed his leg as best he could with his remaining power. While he'd patched himself up, bone and skin knitting together hastily enough to make him bark in pain, Adian and Lorcan clawed a path through the cave-in, just as the sewer had filled with the sounds of the soldiers rushing in. They'd hauled ass back to the castle grounds, where they hit another cave-in. Adian had started ripping at the top of it, shouting and roaring at the earth as if his will alone could move it. But now there was a hole. It was all Rowan needed. Rowan shifted, his leg flashing in agony as he exchanged his limbs for wings and talons. He loosed a cry, shrill and raging. A white-tailed hawk soared out of the small opening, past Adian. Rowan did not linger as he took in his surroundings. They were somewhere in the castle gardens, the glass castle looming beyond. The reek of the smoke from the ruin of the clock tower clogged his senses. Light exploded from the uppermost castle spires, so bright that he was blinded for a moment. Aelin. Alive. Alive. He flapped, bending the wind to his will with the dregs of his magic, soaring faster and faster. He sent another wind toward the clock tower, rerouting the smoke toward the river, away from them. Rowan rounded the corner of the castle. He had no words for what he saw. The King of Otterland bellowed as Aelin and Dorian fractured his power. Together they broke down every spell, every ounce of evil that he'd bent and shackled to his command. Infinite. Dorian's power was infinite. They were full of light, of fire and starlight and sunshine. They overflowed with it as they snapped the final tether on the king's power and cleaved his darkness away, burning it up until it was nothing. The king fell to his knees, the glass bridge thudding with the impact. Aelin released Dorian's hand. Cold emptiness flooded her so violently that she too fell to the glass floor, gulping down air, reeling herself back in, remembering who she was. Dorian was staring at his father, the man who had broken him, enslaved him. In a voice she had never heard, the king whispered, "My boy." Dorian didn't react. The king gazed up at his son, his eyes wide, bright, and said again, "My boy." Then the king looked to where she was on her knees, gaping at him, Have you come to save me at last, Aelin Galathinius? Chapter 78.
Ooh.
Aelin Galathinius stared at the butcher of her family, her people, her continent. Don't listen to his lies, Dorian said, flat and hollow. Aelin studied the king's hand, where the dark ring had been shattered away. Only a pale band of skin remained. Who are you? She said quietly. Human. More and more the king looked. Human. Softer. The king turned to Dorian, exposing his broad palms. Everything I did, it was all to keep you safe. From him. Aelin went still. I found the key, the king went on, the words tumbling out. I found the key and brought it to Morath. And he... Harrington. We were young, and he took me under the keep to show me the crypt, even though it was forbidden. But I opened it with the key. Tears, real and clear, flowed down his ruddy face. I opened it, and he came. He took Harrington's body and... He gazed at his bare hand, watched it shake. He let his minion take me. That's enough, Dorian said. Aelin's heart stumbled. Erewhon is free, she breathed. And not only free. Erewhon was Harrington. The Dark King himself had manhandled her, lived in this castle with her, and had never known, by luck or fate or Elena's own protection, that she was here. She had never known either, never detected it on him. Gods above. Erewhon had forced her to bow that day in Andovier, and neither of them had scented or marked what the other was. The king nodded, setting his tears splattering on his tunic. The eye. You could have sealed him back in with the eye. The look on the king's face when she'd revealed the necklace. He'd been seeing a tool not of destruction, but of salvation. Aelin said, How is it possible he's been inside Harrington all this time and no one noticed? He can hide inside a body like a snail in its shell, but cloaking his presence also stifles his own abilities to scent others, like you. And now you are back. All the players in the unfinished game. The Galathinius line, and the Haviliard, which he has hated so fiercely all this time. Why he targeted my family, and yours. You butchered my kingdom, she managed to say. That night her parents died. There had been that smell in the room, the scent of the Vogue. You slaughtered millions. I tried to stop it. The king braced a hand on the bridge, as if to keep from collapsing under the weight of the shame now coating his words. They could find you based on your magic alone, and wanted the strongest of you for themselves. And when you were born... His craggy features crumpled as he again addressed Dorian. You were so strong, so precious. I couldn't let them take you. I wrested control away for just long enough. To do what? Dorian said hoarsely. Aelin glanced at the smoke wafting toward the river far beyond. To order the towers built, she said, and use that spell to banish magic. And now that they had freed magic, the magic wielders would be sniffed out by every Vogue demon in Aurelia. The king gasped a shuddering breath, but he didn't know how I'd done it. He thought the magic vanished as punishment from our gods, and knew nothing of why the towers were built. All this time I used my strength to keep the knowledge of it away from him. From them, all my strength, so I could not fight the demon. Stop it when it did those things. I kept that knowledge safe. He's a liar, Dorian said, turning on his heel. There was no mercy in his voice. I still wound up able to use my magic. It didn't protect me at all. He'll say anything. The wicked will tell us anything, to haunt our thoughts long after, Nehemia had warned her. I didn't know, the king pleaded. Using my blood in the spell must have made my line immune. It was a mistake. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. My boy, Dorian. You don't get to call him that, Aelin snapped. You came to my home and murdered my family. I came to find you. I came to have you burn it out of me, the king sobbed. Aelin of the Wildfire. I tried to get you to do it, but your mother knocked you unconscious before you could kill me, and then the demon became so devoted to wiping out your line after that. So no fire could ever cleanse him from me. Aelin's blood turned to ice. No, it couldn't be true. Couldn't be right. All of it was to find you, the king said to her, so you could save me. So you could end me at last. Please, do it. The king was weeping now, and his body seemed to waste away bit by bit, his cheeks hollowing out, his hands thinning. As if his life force and the demon prince inside him had indeed been bonded, and one could not exist without the other. Chaol is alive, the king murmured through his emaciated hands, lowering them to reveal red-rimmed eyes, already milky with age. Broken, but I didn't make the kill. There was a light around him. I left him alive. A sob ripped from her throat. She had hoped, had tried to give him a shot at survival. You are a liar, Dorian said again, his voice cold, so cold. And you deserve this. Light sparked at Dorian's fingertips. Aelin mouthed his name, trying to reel herself back in, gather her wits. The demon inside the king had hunted her not because of the threat Terrasen posed, but for the fire in her veins. The fire that could end them both. She lifted a hand as Dorian stepped toward his father. They had to ask more, learn more. The crown prince tipped his head back to the sky and roared, and it was the battle cry of a god. Then the glass castle shattered. Chapter 79. The bridge exploded from beneath her, and the world turned into shards of flying glass. Aelin plummeted into open air, towers crashing down around her. She flung out her magic in a cocoon, burning through the glass as she fell and fell and fell. People were screaming as Dorian brought the castle down for Chaol, for Sorsha, and sent a tidal wave of glass rushing toward the city lying below. Down and down Aelin went, the ground surging up, the buildings around her rupturing, the light so bright on all the fragments. Aelin pulled out every last drop of her magic as the castle collapsed, the lethal wave of glass cascading toward Rifthold. Wildfire raced for the gates, raced against the wind, against death. And as the wave of glass crested the iron gates, shredding through the corpses tied there as if they were paper, a wall of fire erupted before it, shooting sky high, spreading wide, halting it. A wind shoved against her, brutal and unforgiving, her bones groaning as it pushed her up, not down. She didn't care. Not when she yielded the entirety of her magic, the entirety of her being, to holding the barrier of flame now shielding Rifthold. A few more seconds, then she could die. The wind tore at her, and it sounded like it was roaring her name. Wave after wave of glass and debris slammed into her wildfire. But she kept that wall of flame burning. For the royal theater, and the flower girls at the market, for the slaves and the courtesans and the Philique family, for the city that had offered her joy and pain, death and rebirth, for the city that had given her music. Aelin kept that wall of fire burning bright. There was blood raining down among the glass, blood that sizzled on her little cocoon of flame, reeking of darkness and pain. The wind kept blowing, until it swept that dark blood away. Still, Aelin held the shield around the city, held on to the final promise she'd made to Chaol. I'll make it count. She held on until the ground rose up to meet her, and she landed softly in the grass. Then darkness slammed into the back of her head. The world was so bright. Aelin Galathinius groaned as she pushed herself onto her elbows, the small hill of grass beneath her untouched and vibrant. Only a moment. She'd been out for only a moment. She raised her head, her skull throbbing as she shoved her unbound hair from her eyes, and looked at what she had done. What Dorian had done. The glass castle was gone. Only the stone castle remained, its grey stones warming under the midday sun. And where a cascade of glass and debris should have destroyed a city, a massive opaque wall glittered. A wall of glass, its upper lip curved as if it had indeed been cresting a wave. The glass castle was gone. The king was dead, and Dorian, Aelin scrambled up, her arms buckling under her. There, not 3 feet away, was Dorian, sprawled on the grass, eyes closed. But his chest was rising and falling. Beside him, as if some benevolent god had indeed been looking after them, lay Chaol. His face was bloody, but he breathed. No other wounds that she could detect. She began shaking. She wondered if he had noticed when she'd slipped the real eye of Elena into his pocket, as she'd fled the throne room. The scent of pine and snow hit her, and she realized how they had survived the fall. Aelin got to her feet, swaying. The sloping hill down to the city had been demolished, its trees and lampposts and greenery shredded by the glass. She didn't want to know about the people who had been on the grounds, or in the castle. She forced herself to walk. Toward the wall, toward the panicked city beyond, toward the new world that beckoned. 2 scents converged, then a third, a strange wild scent that belonged to everything and nothing. But Aelin did not look at Adian, or Rowan, or Lysandra, as she descended the hill to the city. Every step was an effort, every breath a trial to pull herself back from the brink, to hold on to the here and now, and what had to be done. Aelin approached the towering glass wall that now separated the castle from the city, that separated death from life. She punched a battering ram of blue flame through it. More yelling arose as the flame ate away at the glass, forming an archway. The people beyond, crying and holding one another, or gripping their heads or covering their mouths, went quiet as she strode through the door she'd made. The gallows still stood just beyond the wall. It was the only raised surface that she could see. Better than nothing. Aelin ascended the butchering block, her court falling into rank behind her. Rowan was limping, but she didn't allow herself to examine him, to even ask if he was all right. Not yet. Aelin kept her shoulders back, her face grave and unyielding as she stopped at the edge of the platform. "Your king is dead," she said. The crowd stirred. "Your prince lives." "All hail Dorian Havilyard," someone shouted down the street. No one else echoed it. "My name is Aelin Ashriver Galathinius," she said, "and I am the Queen of Terrasen." The crowd murmured. Some onlookers stepped away from the platform. "Your prince is in mourning. Until he is ready, this city is mine." Absolute silence.
I literally have goosebumps.
"If you loot, if you riot, if you cause one lick of trouble," she said, looking a few in the eye, "I will find you and I will burn you to ash." She lifted a hand, and flames danced at her fingertips. "If you revolt against your new king, if you try to take his castle, then this wall," she gestured with her burning hand, "will turn to molten glass and flood your streets, your homes, your throats." Aelin lifted her chin, her mouth cutting a hard, unforgiving line as she surveyed the crowd filling the streets, people craning to see her, see the fey ears and elongated canines, see the flames flickering around her fingers. "I killed your king. His empire is over. Your slaves are now free people. If I catch you holding on to your slaves, if I hear of any household keeping them captive, you are dead. If I hear of you whipping a slave or trying to sell one, you are dead. So I suggest that you tell your friends and families and neighbors. I suggest that you act like reasonable, intelligent people. And I suggest that you stay on your best behavior until your king is ready to greet you, at which time I swear on my crown that I will yield control of this city to him. If anyone has a problem with it, you can take it up with my court." She motioned behind her. Rowan, Aelin, and Lysandra, bloodied, battered, filthy, grinned like hellions. "Or," Aelin said, the flames winking out on her hand, "you can take it up with me." Not a word. She wondered whether they were breathing. But Aelin didn't care as she strode off the platform, back through the gate she'd made, and all the way up the barren hillside to the stone castle. She was barely inside the oak doors before she collapsed to her knees and wept.
Holy shit. My brain is still reeling, like I just still don't know if I trust the king, like what he said.
It's real.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
That's a game changer.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
All this time, he was just being controlled by the demon, essentially. And he was trying to save Dorian and Aelin.
I'm very surprised that what's his face? Erwin
Yeah.
is in
Was
Parrington.
Parrington?
I would have thought that he would have been in the king.
Yeah.
Because of how, like, oh shit. So now, like, literally the only defense that they had is dead, and now magic is back, which is just kind of now like a free-for-all for the Valk.
Yeah.
They fucked up. They fucked up. Holy crap.
How hard it was to act out hatred towards the king this entire time, knowing the truth from already reading it.
Holy shit.
Like, yeah, fuck that guy. He's such an ass, and on the inside, I'm like, he's just trying to save his baby boy.
Oh my god. I think it would have like more of an impact now, like if I were to go back and listen to it again. Because the whole time I was listening to it, I was just like, oh yeah, slimy little cocksucker is just it's just saying what they need to hear.
And it makes me wonder, because I don't think they ever fully mention it, but I feel like the king, not the demon, the king would have recognized Aelin straight from coming from Endovier.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he would have known that whole time that she's right there.
That is something that kind of like bothered me, that felt kind of like it was a plot error. When we got the flashbacks from Aelin when the king was there. She was what, 8 years old, something like that.
Yeah,
8 or 9, I don't remember. But she wouldn't have changed so drastically. She has very prominent features,
prominent eyes.
Like, how did that king not know after like seeing her back then? Like,
yeah,
he did, but he kept it from the demon. Is that
that's what I'm gathering, anyways.
It must be because there's no way. Like I said, like
that's what I'm saying. Like, pretty sure the king would have known the entire time that that's her, and kept it from the demon.
He had
try
to have
and
known it was
save
her.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
And then Kale's alive.
Kale's alive. I knew they weren't going to kill off Kale because, well, I assumed because Tower of Dawn. So I was pretty confident he was okay.
I was hoping that something would have come up in these chapters, but I think it's literally like the last chapter of the book that it happens. It's nothing like huge per se, but it definitely would have been funny to get your reaction to that as well.
Well, let's do it again. Oh my gosh.
So
Yeah.
no more Glass Castle, no more King. Dorian is back. Magic is back.
Oh, so it's literally going to be a massive clusterfuck now.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not. She gave a pretty stern talking to. Mommy's watching. Amazing.
And let's see how many people make fun of us for how fast we listen to our audiobooks. And this isn't
was
even like it's
slow.
normal. Yeah, exactly.
I thought I slowed it down pretty good for people.
RJ always gives me such a hard time. He's like, it sounds like Siri on crack when you listen to your audiobooks. So I'm like, it's how it sounds when I read in my head.
It's still a little slower than what like I read in my head, I think, when I'm listening to audiobooks.
Yeah.
Because I can read like almost like multiple lines at a time, like as I'm reading stuff. So, but yeah, Maddie said it sounds like squirrels when I'm reading or when I'm listening to audiobooks, and she can hear it. I was like, yeah, my brain needs it that fast for it to like stay listening, because otherwise my brain's going off on all different areas.
I was worried because, like, you gave no reaction to when it was revealed that the king was,
my brain
like,
was
trying to help the entire time, and I was just like, oh, this is why I wanted to record this episode.
No, my brain was
no reaction.
It was still, like, trying to figure out if it was just the king spouting shit or if it was true. So, like, as my brain was trying to work that out, like, there was no, like, pause. Maybe I should have paused it and just let my brain buffer for a minute. Because it was just like, bam, bam, bam.
But then, like, right away, you were like, I don't know if I believe the king.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's real. And then you kind of, like, finally had the reaction. Yeah. I was just like, oh, thank God.
I'm so untrustworthy of the villains in this book that you could slap me in the face with saying like nope, is actually a good person, and I'm just like, but there could be another twist. But I mean, he's dead now, so or is he? Does he stay dead? That's the question. Dun dun dun. With us.
Yeah, hope you enjoyed the delayed reactions.
Listen, my whole
at least we got some
goosebumps.
Delayed. We got some goosebumps. Yeah. So there was that.
I thought Rowan was going to come in and flap and save Aelin from falling. That's why I said flap, flap, flap. She's falling. But no, she saved herself. That's our girl. Yeah. Okay. Bye.
Well, until the next time we decide to record something. Bye.
Bye.
Where heroes rise and villains fall, with every chapter hear the call. Adventure waits beyond the wall. Ilsa and Stacey cast enthrall. Caffeine and conjuring ignite, witches brew.